Peaceful protest isn't just a right, it's a responsibility. Have you ever tried to get someone's attention in a really loud room? You can wave your hands, you can try shouting, but sometimes the only way to be heard is to get a whole group of people to shout with you. That, in a nutshell, is the power of peaceful protest in a democracy. It's the people's megaphone. It's the ultimate way for regular folks to tell their leaders, "Hey, over here, we need to talk about something important." When the usual channels of communication feel clogged or ignored, the collective voice of a demonstration can cut through the noise like nothing else can. It's a fundamental feature, not a bug, of a healthy democratic system. Think about it. In a democracy, the government is supposed to work for the people. But how can it work for us if it doesn't know what we want? Or worse, if it knows but chooses to ignore us? Voting is crucial, yes, but it only happens every few years. What about all the days in between? Peaceful protest fills that gap. It's a real-time feedback loop, a living, breathing poll that shows the passion and commitment behind an issue. When people take the time to make signs, organize marches, and stand together for hours, it sends a powerful message that cannot be easily dismissed as just another statistic or a fringe opinion. This isn't about creating chaos, it's about creating conversation. It's about taking an idea that might be simmering in private homes and online forums and bringing it out into the open for everyone to see. It forces society to look at itself in the mirror and confront issues it might prefer to sweep under the rug. Whether it's about climate change, racial justice, or economic inequality, public demonstrations turn abstract problems into urgent human stories. They put a face to the policies and a voice to the voiceless, ensuring that the democratic dialogue includes everyone, not just the powerful and well-connected. Ultimately, the right to gather and protest peacefully is a sign of a society's confidence in itself. A government that trusts its people allows them to voice their dissent openly. It understands that disagreement is not disloyalty. In fact, it's the opposite. It shows that citizens are engaged and deeply invested in the future of their country. They care enough to show up. A public square filled with peaceful protesters isn't a sign of a nation falling apart. It's the sign of a democracy that is alive, kicking, and constantly striving to be better for all its people. We often talk about the right to protest, and that's absolutely correct. It's a freedom enshrined in the very foundation of many democracies, a guarantee that the state cannot silence you simply for disagreeing with it. But I think we need to go a step further. Peaceful protest isn't just a right you can choose to use, like a coupon for a free coffee. It's also a responsibility. It's a civic duty, a way we actively participate in the messy, beautiful, ongoing project of building a fair society. When we see injustice, remaining silent is a choice, and it's a choice that allows that injustice to grow. Think of democracy as a group project. We're all in it together. If some members of the group are doing all the work while others are just sitting back, the project isn't going to be very good, is it? Citizenship requires participation. When we see a policy that harms our neighbors or a law that chips away at our freedoms, we have a responsibility to speak up. Not just for ourselves, but for those who may not have the ability, the safety, or the voice to do so. The strength of a democracy is measured by how its citizens look out for one another, and peaceful protest is one of the most powerful ways we can do that. This responsibility doesn't mean you have to be at every single rally. What it means is staying informed, paying attention, and being ready to lend your voice when it matters most. It's about understanding that your individual voice, when joined with others, creates a chorus that cannot be ignored. It's easy to feel powerless in the face of massive institutions and complex problems. But the act of standing with your fellow citizens, of saying we are here and we demand to be heard, is an act that reclaims that power. It reminds us, and our leaders, that the ultimate authority in a democracy rests with the people. So, while we celebrate the right to protest as a legal protection, let's also embrace it as a moral and civic obligation. It's our job to hold power accountable. It's our job to stand up for the principles of fairness, equality, and justice. When we see something wrong, our democracy depends on us having the courage not just to grumble about it at home, but to take that concern into the public square. It's not just about exercising a right. It's about fulfilling a duty to our fellow citizens and to the generations that will come after us. If you ever doubt whether peaceful protest actually works, just open a history book or, scroll through your phone. The evidence is everywhere. Real lasting change has often been born from the feet of marchers and the voices of demonstrators. Look at the civil rights movement in the United States. The images from the march from Selma to Montgomery are burned into our collective memory for a reason. People faced down brutal violence with nothing but courage and a belief in justice. Their non-violent resistance exposed the ugliness of segregation to the world and pressured politicians to pass the Voting Rights Act of 1965. This isn't just ancient history. The power of peaceful assembly continues to shape our world today. Think about the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. It didn't come down because of a great war. It crumbled under the pressure of hundreds of thousands of ordinary East Germans who peacefully gathered, chanting, "Wir sind das Volk," "We are the people." Their consistent non-violent demonstrations showed the government that its authority was gone. It was a revolution powered not by tanks, but by candlelight vigils and mass marches, proving that the will of the people can be more powerful than concrete and barbed wire. And now, in our modern era, the tools have expanded. The spirit of protest has found new life online, organizing movements that spill onto the streets with incredible speed. The Arab Spring was famously fueled by social media, allowing activists to coordinate and bypass state-controlled media. More recently, the global climate strikes, inspired by a single Swedish teenager, saw millions of young people across the world walk out of school. They used the power of collective action to demand that world leaders take the threat of climate change seriously. These movements show how a powerful idea can unite people across continents. From the suffragettes demanding the right to vote to anti-apartheid activists in South Africa, the story is the same. When people unite peacefully for a just cause, they can bend the arc of history. It's not always fast and it's never easy. It requires persistence, bravery, and an unwavering commitment to nonviolence. But these examples prove beyond any doubt that standing up or sitting in or marching forward is one of the most effective tools for progress that we have. A peaceful protest is a down payment on a better future. Okay, so we agree that peaceful protest is important, but the key word here is, this is crucial. The moment a protest turns violent or starts infringing on the rights of other citizens, it loses its moral high ground. The goal of a demonstration is to win hearts and minds, not to create enemies. If your protest about, say, a new traffic law involves blocking an ambulance from getting to the hospital, you've not only broken the law, you've lost the argument. You've become the problem you were trying to solve. The power of nonviolent protest comes from its discipline and its respect for others. This means being mindful that the public square belongs to everyone. Your right to protest doesn't cancel out someone else's right to go to work, to feel safe in their community, or to simply walk down the street. A successful protest persuades. It doesn't intimidate. It creates a space for dialogue. It doesn't shut it down with threats or harassment. When protesters are respectful, it makes their message shine even brighter. It shows that they are the reasonable ones in the conversation, the ones who are fighting for a better society for everyone, not just for their own group. There is a clear line between passionate advocacy and harmful action. Vandalizing property, shouting down anyone who disagrees, or physically blocking people from going about their lives, that isn't protest, that's just bullying. And it's counterproductive. It gives the authorities an excuse to crack down, and it gives opponents a reason to dismiss the entire message. The most powerful movements in history understood this. Gandhi's Salt March and Martin Luther King Jr. NDOSS sit-ins were powerful precisely because they absorbed hatred without returning it. They showed strength through restraint, and that's a lesson we should never forget. So when we exercise our responsibility to protest, we also have a responsibility to do it right. This means planning, it means de-escalation, and it means having a clear message that isn't drowned out by chaos. Be loud, be passionate, be impossible to ignore, but also be respectful. Be the kind of protester who makes people stop and think, you know what? They have a point. True strength isn't measured by how much disruption you can cause, but by how much positive change you can inspire. Why are public spaces like parks, streets, and squares so important? Because they are the stage upon which democracy performs. They are the neutral ground where citizens can meet, debate, and demonstrate. Protecting our access to these spaces for peaceful assembly is just as important as protecting the vote or a free press. When a government starts restricting where and when people can gather, it's not just managing traffic, it's trying to turn down the volume on the people's megaphone. A healthy democracy doesn't fence off its public squares, It welcomes the voices of its citizens into them. Defending the right to protest for everyone is one of the most important things we can do to protect democracy itself. And I mean, this is the tricky part. You have to defend the right of people you completely disagree with to hold their own peaceful demonstrations. Why? Because the moment you allow the government to silence a group you don't like, you've given them the power to silence you next. The right to protest is not an a la carte menu where you only pick the causes you support. It's a fundamental principle that applies to all, or it applies to none. When we stand up for these rights, we are essentially reinforcing the guardrails of our own freedom. We are telling the state that there are limits to its power, and that the ultimate authority lies with the people. Every time a peaceful protest is allowed to proceed, it strengthens the democratic muscles of a nation. It reaffirms the social contract. Conversely, every time a peaceful protest is unjustly shut down, that contract is weakened. Protecting protest isn't about protecting one particular political view. It's about protecting the very process that allows for political views to be expressed and debated openly. So let us be vigilant. Let us be inspired by the generations who marched before us, and let us embrace our role as active participants in our democracy. Go out there, make your signs, join your neighbors, raise your voice for the causes you believe in. Do it peacefully, do it respectfully, and do it with the conviction that you are not just fighting for an issue, but for the very soul of a free and open society. And when you see others doing the same, even for a cause you oppose, respect their right to be there. Because in protecting their voice, you are ensuring that yours will also be heard. Thanks for watching. Stay stronger, stay smarter, stay informed. Like and subscribe for more information and updates.